Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Are you feeling charitable? Please smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Thursday's edition of the DCEU Daily. This, my friends, is Access Media. This, my friends, is what they're all about. This, my friends, is actually someone without any access, right? So this is from Anthony D'Alessandro. So Anthony reckons he's got a source, right? So let me talk to you what's going on here. So I woke up this morning to read this article. We haven't seen the last of Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. Now, this is really a hilarious article. This has no validity, nothing to back it up, and it's very short. But let's read it out. And we're going to get straight onto this. Exclusive. While there is not a Man of Steel sequel in the works, right? They thought they'd get that in quick in this article. Why is that important? We'll discuss it. We're hearing that Henry Cavill is in talks to reprise his role as Superman in the Warner Brothers DC universe. We hear Cavill could come back in a couple of different ways. Not a standalone film, but there are plans to put him back in the big red cape again. Really? No shit, Sherlock. Sources with knowledge tell us Warner Brothers is not developing a Man of Steel sequel, and Wonder Woman 1984 Suicide Squad are in the can, and Superman isn't expected to make a cameo in Matt Reeves' The Batman. Other projects where Cavill could make a cameo are Shazam 2, Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam, or Aquaman 2, which are the next productions to be prepped once COVID-19 safety restrictions lift, right? They don't know anything. When reached, or Warner Brothers provided no comment. No, because they're not ready to talk about Henry and Superman. Cavill made a surprise appearance on Zack Snyder's Zero Watch Party for Man of Steel last week. At the end of the session, Snyder announced that his director's cut of Justice League is heading to HBO Max. That's all they've got. Literally, that, my friends, is the whole article. But of course, it was very important to them to lead into they're not developing a Superman movie or Man of Steel 2. Why not? This is what Access Media have become. If they're not attacking us, the fans, with false accusations of toxicity, they're creating clickbait, venomous articles like this. But Mick, why is this venomous? Why aren't you happy? Why aren't you jumping around? Why aren't you throwing the confetti up in the air? I'm not doing any of those things because this is the biggest bullshit I have ever read. They're not doing you a nice little article where they've got information about Henry reprising his role as Superman in multiple films. This was an idea mooted by Jeff Johns back in 2017, where after Justice League, they were planning on putting Superman in Aquaman, Shazam, every film. He was going to be the Tony Stark of the DCEU. And I liked that idea. I really did like that idea. But what I don't like is having Superman tossed around in every DCEU film and not getting his own film. If this is actually true, this is worse than resting him for 2 years. This is ridiculous. Henry Cavill's Superman in general, any Superman deserves to be in his own movie. If this is actually true, this is ridiculous. I don't think it's true for 1 minute. It would be ridiculous. Superman has to be everywhere, doesn't he? I'm glad we're going to see the real performance by Henry as Superman in Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's very important and that's very special to me. And Superman should cameo in all the films as well. That's awesome. I have no problem with that. But he's got to have his own movies, right? You can't have him as this salesman who travels around everywhere, but he doesn't get to go home ever. He doesn't get his own movie. That's ridiculous. And, if this is true, and I don't think for 1 minute that it is this Warner Brothers still wondering what to do with him? Or, if they can make a Superman film profitable, which is ridiculous. He's the number one character on their slate. There is no question. And if you truly, as a creator or a writer or a director, don't know what to do with Superman, you shouldn't be working in this industry anymore. It's simple. Even a no-mark like me could come up with an awesome, epic Superman movie, right? Right? So there's no issue here. But this, my friends, is total clickbait. They're literally saying, right, here's a forest without any trees, and maybe a couple of trees will grow. And we don't know what to call the trees when they grow. Will it be Terry? Will it be the fir tree? Will it be Alfred? You know, it's ridiculous. They don't know. They don't know anything. They literally don't know anything. This article is pathetic. This article has nothing, right? And everyone's getting excited and losing their shit about it. Oh, it's not fair. I want a Man of Steel movie. Oh, right. This is awesome, isn't it? It is awesome, right? It is awesome that Henry Cavill is still our Superman. And he has been for the past 2.5 years. And that hasn't changed. But just like these people were saying he's been negotiating more money for nearly 3 years, which is a blatant lie, this is not true either, right? The purpose of this article was to create upset between the fans and toxicity. Yes, this is how toxic they are. And this is how, I suppose you could say, evil they are and bitter they are, because we can't call them access media anymore. No, we can't. We've got to call them the former access media or just the media. Or you can't even call them journalists, right? Was it Roxy Steiner or whatever her name is from Collider? She was moaning yesterday about fans, bullying her, playing the victim. Yeah, I did say it didn't exist, but, everyone makes mistakes. Roxy, sweetheart, I don't defend anyone who's attacking you aggressively or threatening you or bullying you. That's not right. But what people are really doing, I suspect, Roxy, is saying to you, you said it wasn't going to happen and it did. And that's the level of it, right? And that's what you call trolling and bullying, I'm afraid, because everyone's got to kiss your perfectly formed behind, right? Let's be clear here, Roxy. You're supposed to be a movie journalist. All you had to do was go over to Vero, say, hello, Zach, comment on one of his posts. What's going on here? And he probably would have told you, right? You could have gone back to Collider with the biggest scoop ever and said, wow, Zach said this, Zach said that. It does exist. And you lot, you Collider lot, and all of you lot who kept on waving the red rag to the fans, it doesn't exist. You're dreaming. Move on. You damn well it existed. You knew damn well what was going over on Vero and what Zach was saying. And you still were toxically baiting the fans. And when the fans come back in on you and say, ha, right, you were wrong, admit it, blah, 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 things like that. You call that trolling and bullying. I'm sorry, I know what you're trying to do. It's not going to work. It's no good playing the victim. We're your victims. We were your victims for 2.5, 3 years. We were your victims during all of Zach's movies, and especially Batman v Superman, where you were all saying despicable things and untrue things, right? There's a lot of things that have gone on, right? We can all be friends, but we can't be friends because you won't have it, because you're bitter and salty because you lost. Basically, former access media, you were outmaneuvered by Zach, by the fans, and even the studio. Even the studio was feeding you lies just so you didn't know what was going on, right? Who knows how long truly Warner Brothers have been planning on releasing the Snyder Cut, right? It could be even pre-November, and you simply didn't know. You weren't even talking about it, right? You weren't even talking about any of it, right? All you had to say was, it's not happening, move on, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, your biggest headlines were the DCEU is being rebooted. And the DCEU wasn't being rebooted. The DCEU is still here. We've had Aquaman making $1 billion. We've had Shazam, right? We've had 2 DCEU movies since Justice League, right? No, 3 with Birds of Prey, right? We've had 3 DCEU movies. And I mean, what are we looking at? Just under 2 billion? What? I'd say 1.6 billion at the moment, I think. Same like that anyway, just above that. But yeah, not too far under 2 billion. So they've done okay, the movies, right? Especially Shazam. No, I mean, especially Aquaman, which literally saved the entire of the DCU. In fact, I was watching that making of Aquaman on the Warner Brothers YouTube channel. Brilliant. What James Wan achieved was so important. I love the Aquaman movie, and you'll remember my video back in the old days of this channel where I told you I saw it before it was released. Loved the movie, and what James Wan did was groundbreaking. The effects, the way it looks. No one's done a movie underwater before. A lot of the stuff wasn't filmed underwater, obviously, but it looked amazing. It was a great Aquaman movie, and it saved the DCEU. It comes after Justice League. It makes $1 billion. And yeah, well done, James Wan. And we've got some great directors on our books as well. So that's really exciting. But going back to Man of Steel, going back to Henry Cavill, right? We know nothing more than we did before we went to bed in Europe last night. And America knows nothing more before this Deadline article. This article is pure and utter clickbait. They know absolutely nothing, right? And they're going to live off this now for the next week. And now there's a Screen Rant article going, oh, there's no plans for Man of Steel 2. That, my friends, is what it's truly about. So they can band about the lie and the rumour that Henry isn't getting a movie. I don't know what their plans are, but I know there are plans for Superman movies, multiple Superman movies. I know this. It's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. Because if it's not, I'm going to riot. You have Superman, the most awesomest, brilliant, greatest, epicest character in fiction, in creation. It's bad enough you benched him for 2 years. If this was true, oh, I'd be very angry. And I'd never stop talking about it on my channel. Because at the end of the day, there's no bigger, more important character than Superman on the DCEU's books. I'm really excited that HBO Max are calling that section of the streaming platform the DCEU. That's exciting as well. Finally, officially, the DC Extended Universe, something that we kind of named it as fans ourselves, and it fits. I did kind of like the tagline, the Worlds of DC. That was interesting as well. And that did lend to the fact that it was going to be the kind of standalone movies, which I suppose some of them will still be. But I think there's a bigger plan here. And I've spoken about this plan before, where the cinematic side, the HBO Max side, right? And although it's all part of the same universe, they'll be able to do different things with Zack and different creatives on this side and be a bit more mainstream on this side, right? The DC universe in the comics has multiverses, right? Multiple Supermans, multiple Flashes, multiple Batman, right? There's different versions of everyone. And I believe this is what's going to happen in the live action movie universe, both on the HBO Max side and the cinematic side. There are big plans happening. This shows you they know absolutely nothing, right? It's a horrible, horrible anorexic article that has nothing. They're lying to you. They're trying to upset you. They're trying to bait you by saying there's no Man of Steel 2. You don't know that, but I tell you who doesn't know that, them. They certainly don't know that. So this is what I'm going to say to you. I'm 100% sure that Henry Cavill will cameo in many, many DCEU movies. That I can concur with, and that's awesome, and that's epic. What I can also tell you is that Henry Cavill will get his Man of Steel sequel. The very reason he hasn't put back the cape back on since is because that's what he's been fighting for. A Man of Steel sequel. That's what he wants. That's what's going to bring him back. And then now all these kind of clickbait sites are saying, ooh, what movie will he be in? Well, it can't be Wonder Woman 84 because that's locked. It can't be in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad because that's locked. Isn't exactly locked, by the way. There's still a bit to do with The Suicide Squad. They stopped filming. But if they were desperate to have Cavill's Superman in that movie, they could go back and do that. Obviously, COVID-19 restrictions will finish in June. So they'll be able to start shooting and keeping actors in the environment they want. So there's no social distancing needing and things like that. So I'm telling you, Man of Steel 2 is going to happen. Henry Cavill's Superman will cameo in some projects, right? Probably. But I've told you this before. He's not going to be the only Superman within the DCEU. There is going to be a brand new cinematic Superman cast by J.J. Abrams. We've already discussed that. We already know that J.J. Abrams is already moulding the clay of his Justice League Dark universe. He's creating something. He's doing something, right? And this is just the beginning. Do you remember when people said, no, he's not going to be involved in DC? Already he's got his hands on the chicken switch, and he not the company, but I thought it was Bad Robot creatives dealing with Justice League Dark, but it's JJ himself working on this. That's his baby. So he is very much involved in the DCEU. Hopefully Justice League Dark will be part of the kind of whole DCEU as well. That would be good. That would be great world building as well. So that excites me. So, and there's a lot more going on. But as a journalist, if you launch an article which has nothing, no validity, and says, oh, well, there's no Man of Steel 2 planned at this moment, at this second, which basically we're trying to say, which means you'll never see a Man of Steel 2 again, which is nonsense, right? Maybe there's not one in development right now. Maybe they don't want to announce it to you. But Henry will get his sequel to his original movie. Do not worry. He will also cameo. He will get all of these things. But what's not true is this. This, my friends, one last time, is total, utter clickbait. It offends me. It's toxic. It's trying to show how terribly toxic we are. They hate us, and this is what they're trying to throw at us. They know what we want. They know we want Zack back. Soon they'll be telling us Zack Snyder won't come back after the Snyder Cut. This is what you're going to get. It's a war. And let me promise you something else. When Zack Snyder's Justice League is released, every member of Access Media, who no longer have any access, by the way, by the way, before I carry on, nobody likes Access Media journalists. The directors, the producers, the owners, the CEOs of the studios, nobody likes them. Everybody knows they are scum, but they are a means to an end. But now, with what's going on between Warner Brothers and the fans together, promoting HBO Max, they don't even need mainstream media anymore. Their time is over, and they know it, and they're scared. And all they can do is throw bombs like this, fake bombs, without any explosive inside. This is fake. And yes, as I said, when they see Zack Snyder's Justice League, I can assure you they are going to throw shade on it, right? Because that's how bitter and nasty they are. So be prepared, but just enjoy the film yourselves like I am, and just ignore them. They're like children kicking and screaming because they didn't get their own way. Simple as that. So, my friends, Man of Steel 2 will happen, and this is simply a comic and not true. This is more fictional than a Superman comic. It's all happening. We've got a lot to look forward to, and just ignore nonsense like that. Before we move on from this Superman Henry Cavill return thing, right, that the assumption that Access Media are actually trying to make is that he's going to be like the Nick Fury of the DCEU, where he'll cameo in all these different movies, but will never get his own movie, right? That simply cannot stand. I don't want to see a couple of minutes of Superman or Clark Kent in each film. It's dumb. Yes, do that. But you've got to give him his films as well. Now, what I suspect is, and this is the true reason, but they don't want to put this out there because it's positive, I believe that he is going to be front and centre, like was suggested by Jeff Johns a few years back after Justice League, where he cameos in most of the movies, but also gets his own movies. Now, the reason they don't want to tell you Man of Steel 2 is happening, because it's positive, and they hate us, and they don't want to make us happy. But here on Big Mouth, it's all about being happy, and it's all about throwing truth bombs. Superman is going to be front and centre of the DC Extended Universe, and you should be excited. And you should also be excited because there's a beautiful YouTube documentary, and I forgot who's done it, right? Basically, it's called The Journey to the Snyder Cut. I started watching about 20 minutes of it. It's amazing. Now, on it, there's a message from Zack Snyder to us, the fans, and here it is. Very emotional. I'm not going to hold it up for you. You can listen to it. He's clean shaven. He looks brilliant, right? But yeah, this is the message, and it's very emotional.
Hey guys, just a quick word of thanks. You know as well as I do that none of this would be at all possible without your incredible dedication and incredible perseverance. This whole thing started, and I thought, it's amazing that these guys want to see what I made, but I was sure it would go away, and it didn't. Not only did it not go away, but it started to become a real movement, and I saw it raise awareness for ASFP. I saw it bring a giant group of people together, and I saw one voice that changed the world and made anything possible. So for that, I just want to say thank you. You guys are amazing.
So are you, Zach. So are you. I'm just really emotional now. Wow. Just wow. What a beautiful message. Look, Zach, we love you. We all love you. We love you in the proper, good, healthy way, and not in an obsessive kind of stalky way. Important to reiterate that. But yes, we love you, Zach. I'm going to tell you the truth about my relationship and my kind of love for Zack Snyder as an artist. Now, I don't know Zach, and Zach doesn't know me. I don't know if he's watched my videos before. Maybe he's one of the 50 people who watches my videos. I tell you what, that would make it easier for my channel being such a failure if Zach was one of the people who were watching it, or maybe he was watching it with Deb over breakfast. Wouldn't that be cool? Anyway, right? I saw 300 and I saw Watchmen. Now, I've only seen those films once each, I'm going to be honest. Now, although I think they're brilliant films, and he did a great job with them, and they're so unique and stylized and individual, like all his movies, right? They didn't really give an impression. I'm not really into the 300 comics, and I was never really into the Watchmen comics. The first time I kind of understood what was going on with Zack, really, when he was announced as Man of Steel manager? It's like he's a football team. No, when he was announced as Man of Steel director. Now, I didn't actually know Zack by name. I saw those two previous movies, but I didn't know his name. And all of a sudden, it was the director of 300 and Watchmen, Zack Snyder, is directing Man of Steel. And I'm thinking, actually, they didn't even mention Watchmen and 300 at times. I said, well, who's this Zack Snyder? Anyway, I found out, and a few people told me he directed 300 and Watchmen. Now, a lot of Watchmen fans don't like Zack because of what he did with Watchmen. I actually really enjoyed the film, even though I've only seen it once, right? So I'm thinking, well, he's directing my favourite character. This is pretty exciting. I'm down with this. I don't really know him that well to make a judgment, but we're going to, I'm going to wait to see what he does with Man of Steel. Then all of a sudden we get these trailers and TV spots for Man of Steel, and it's stunning. It's the most stunning thing I've ever seen, especially for Superman. And I'm saying to my brother, Jesus Christ, this film can't be that good, can it? And it looked that good. I was just stoked how good it looked. And the trailers were amazing, and the film was amazing, right? So, that was how I was introduced to Zack Snyder. And then when he announced BVS, I was so excited. I loved BVS. I really did. I loved it. And again, totally stylized and individualistic of Zack's style, and brilliant. So that's how I got to know Zack Snyder. So what I'm trying to say to you is I'm not going to pretend that I'm obsessed with him or I'm obsessed with every single movie he's ever done. I love Zack because of the person he is and because of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And I'm predominantly a DC fan. And, it's very important as well to remember how I started all of this. And I mean, it can be catalogued in my videos. I can't get away with it. When I went to see Justice League, I've admitted I was heartbroken and disappointed, but I just felt it was that way because of Zack losing Autumn, and I thought he had to go away. He couldn't finish the film. So all of a sudden, all this stuff was coming out about him having his own cut and him being betrayed by Jeff Johns and Sujihara and this, and I was going, look, and I was saying to people, look, don't do this. He's lost his daughter. This is terrible. This is why the movie isn't very good. That's all they could put together. I genuinely believed that, right? And even at the time when they brought in Whedon, I was kind of excited. I thought, well, maybe this is a good thing, and then they were going to, and then when Junkie XL left, but basically when I heard the name Whedon, I just thought Buffy, Angel, Avengers, this is cool. But so even when Junkie was removed, I didn't really bat an eyelid at the time because I just thought, they know what they're doing, right? It's going to be awesome. And then they were talking about the Superman theme, the original Dawn of Superman theme, and the Batman theme, the Tim Burton. I think this is going to be awesome. Interconnective or what? This is brilliant. So we were all, not all of us, but I was pretty excited about this at the time. But then when the information came to me and I realised it was true, and all the fans were coming to me, and Zach was saying stuff, when Zach started saying stuff, well, I thought, you know what, this is terrible, and this is like the biggest betrayal ever. And this is how I got into the movement. And slowly, I learned more and more information. Then R.T. Snyder Cut came into fruition. Chris Wong Svensson's videos. It was all very apparent that Zack had been betrayed. And so you should go and check out. I forgot what YouTube channel does the Journey to the Snyder Cut or whatever it's called, right? You should definitely check it out. Everyone's retweeting it. Chris Wong Svensson's in it. Davey Pina. Is it Stephen Colbert? Is that how you say his name? Anyway, the guy who does Screen Rant articles. He's on there. There's loads of fans. Mick D, right there. There's loads of people on there as well. So I'm going to continue watching it. And it's great to have a proper extended, like, documentary kind of thing. And it really is. It really is awesome. And from what I've seen so far, very, very emotional. But that is all about the success of what we've done. It was unprecedented. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it happening. And as I said, mainstream media, access media were outmaneuvered. Warner Brothers were even outmaneuvered. We outmaneuvered them through intelligence. Us and Zack together, a super team. And now it's the fans, Zack and Warner Brothers together. And the buzz for HBO Max, thanks to us in the movement, is amazing. So every time Access Media try and accuse us of toxicity, thinking that all of a sudden Warner Media are going to go, oh, we don't want to be associated with them, no more Zack Snyder's Justice League. Not going to happen. We mean money to Warner Media now, which means we're going to have more access than Access Media. We've won while they're shooting like a bunch of shouting like a bunch of angry people. And it is hilarious. So I've spoken about Joe Davis before. Joe is a culture and film critic, writer, professor of history, Press Enslow, Yes Mag, Zorro, Washington Post, The Fix, Sci-Fi Wire. She's brilliant and she's part of our fandom. And she's really helped us get Zack Snyder's Justice League. And you know what? I read, she was throwing truth bombs at other journalists last week, and I read the thread out to you. Here's another thread, again going for the haters. This is brilliant. Come on over here, Snyder Cut fans, DC Universe fans, and members of other targeted fandoms. The so-called press is depending on you to make their traffic $ signs this month. Hashtag COVID starved so many of them because folks were clicking for real entertainment, not messiness. So they spend the lockdown scrambling for content, and then the Snyder Cut release news drops. It's a gift to them. Know why? Because they know that our fandom is large and passionate. Any negative mention will bring you out en masse. They depend on it. This is so true. You see, their ad dollar are dependent on clicks, views, shares, any form of engagement. Hashtag COVID had their engagement dead in the water. But the Snyder Cut hate posts have them popping again. And they are saying things even if they don't believe, just to get you to stop and block. They're just saying things even if they don't believe, just to get to you. So just stop and block. Right, this is great advice, and this is another great thread by Joe. For the next year, do not click on any podcasts, articles, videos, or any media that uses the Snyder Cut hashtag, Justice League or DC in any way. Hit block and keep scrolling. Only engage fandom-friendly publications. Let's make a list. I'll start. Cinema Blend. Comic Book Debate. Yes, very friendly. The Nerd Queens drop a link to your podcast. Yes, she's shouting out the Nerd Queens. And shall I comment my own channel? So yeah, let's do this. And me, Great Fred. Wow, that's cool, isn't it? And me, Great Fred Joe. So, spot on, right. Let's leave that now. Wow, that's amazing. That is, Joe is spot on. I mean, I do it myself. It's clever, isn't it? They spray hate. They depend on us to share the hate, right? So from now on, when you see a thread about someone saying we are toxic and bullies, ignore. Go past it. I know it's not easy and some of you won't. But it's important we don't let these people carry on. Because the less we share and the less we react, they'll probably lose their jobs, right? Now, I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs, but really, these people are not journalists. Look, these people are vermin. It's as simple as that. You know it, and I know it. But a great thread from Jo, and I agree with every single thing she wrote in it. As you all know, I'm a big fan of Connie Nielsen, who plays Hippolyta, Wonder Woman's mother in the DCEU. And there's a bit of a quote here from her, and I think it's fascinating. It doesn't surprise me, but it's brilliant. It's funny because it was Zack Snyder who was the one who kept saying to Patty, I really think you should meet with Connie Nielsen. I really think she's right for this role. Nielsen recalls, Patty was like, oh no, she's this tough girl, and I'm not looking for a tough woman for this. Zack then said, I really don't think so. I think you should meet with her. I had to fly to London just before Christmas. I think I arrived and went straight from the airport to lunch with Patty at this Japanese restaurant. I just immediately fell into this comrades in arms kind of feeling with her, and we just bonded over the next 4 hours. We had the longest lunch, and it just felt like a conversation that was unable to end. Brilliant. Again, Zack is the best at casting. Look at his casting. Look at his record. Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, Gal Gadot herself. You know, absolutely brilliant. I'm still a bit miffed why Gal hasn't come out to say something about the announcement that Zack Snyder's Justice League will be streamed next year on HBO Max. I'm really miffed about that. She has been on social media. And it's not a big deal, but come on, Gal. You know, be classy here. Just say something, for crying out loud. I think they're probably worried that it's going to conflict with Wonder Woman 84. I don't know, but just let the woman say something. It's not fair, right? Everybody else has, right? So come on, let's hear from Gal as well. That would just complete the icing on the cherry on top of the cake as well. It's really great to see James Gunn and David Ayer conversing and joking together and chatting together on Twitter. It's great to see both directors have got a good relationship, and there's no bitterness there, and why should there be? You know, James took on the project not to betray David because it was offered to him. It was a great opportunity. He was off the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise and the MCU at the time. You know, you don't turn down offers like that, and he's a big Suicide Squad fan, and he's well okay with David fighting for his cut of Suicide Squad as well. And who knows, James may get involved with that fight as well, not too deeply, because obviously he works for Warner Brothers doing the Suicide Squad as well. But it's really good seeing those guys mixed together. So that's it for today, basically. The main headline I'm giving you today is to ignore Access Media's reports that Man of Steel 2 isn't in development. If it isn't in development yet, it soon will be. Henry Cavill will get his Man of Steel movie. The only question you need to ask is who's actually going to direct it. Zack Snyder's a great shout, but there's many other directors. If there isn't another Superman in development, then J.J. Abrams would probably be involved with that. If not, Man of Steel 2 will be a separate entity on the HBO Max side of the DCEU franchise. So remember, everyone, when you see articles like this and they're short and they're saying to you, what films do you think he's going to be in? They haven't got news. They're just trying to get your clicks. That's all it is. This is classic clickbait. It's disgusting. It's despicable. And you should pay it no mind. Comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.